Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio's The Incoherent Ramblings of C&E. Christopher and Eric are your hosts, coming to you live from Greensboro, North Carolina, as we do every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Our intro music is provided from the Podshow PodSafe Music Network. Check it out at music.podshow.com. Also, feel free to email your topics for discussion, suggestions, and comments to incoherentramblings@live.com. And good evening, people. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Christopher. Sans Eric tonight. Happy New Year. This is the Incoherent Ramblings of C&E, broadcasting live from the internationally famous C&E studios here in Greensboro, North Carolina. It is January the 7th, 6:01 in the p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for the next 58 and a half minutes, you're stuck with me. Aren't you just ecstatic? So I will start off by doing Eric's bit and tell you, if you want to call in, feel free to. Our guest call-in number is 646-716-6928, and we would be more than happy to take your calls live on the air. If you want to discuss something that's being a topic that's current, or something we discussed in previous shows, or something completely unrelated, that's the beautiful thing about our show is Incoherent Ramblings. We can incoherently ramble about anything we so desire. So once again, Happy New Year. Hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas and a Happy New Year holiday, and their new year is off to a great start. This 2010. That's it. I don't have anything else to say about that other than hope everything's going well. It is here. Eric is not with us tonight. Our loyal, faithful listeners know that he is actually in transition from one home to another, and he is working on his new home quite a bit to get it ready to move in. He is over 90% done with all the painting. I'm actually, after the show, I'm actually going over there. He said he wanted me to look it over and give him my opinion on the color choices he used for each room. And actually 90% done on the painting was a couple days ago, so he's probably closer to 100% by now. And tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, he is going to be sanding the hardwood floors so he can get ready to stain and reseal them. And then I think he's pretty much going to be ready to move in. So, excuse me. I know that you guys, our loyal listeners and friends and family, have been following the chronicles of Eric's new home here on the show, and so there is the update. He hopes to have the floors sanded, completely sanded, and done with that this weekend, leaving him with getting them stained and sealed. At which point, to the best of my knowledge, he will be ready to move in. That's my understanding. And I know he's going to be quite pleased with that. It's a nice home. So I got a full basement. Not concerned with that right now. Getting the upstairs ready with the kitchen and the hardwood floors and the painting, and kind of redesigning some of the walls and whatnot. And a very nice large sunroom for Eric's office. I am anxious to actually see it completed when he moves in, because it's going to be quite nice. So that tells you why Eric's not here. Obviously, providing a home for himself and his daughter is going to take priority over our show. As much as we love our listeners and appreciate you guys, obviously things such as that are going to take precedence. So we appreciate you listening to our show, and I appreciate you hanging out with me, even though Eric's not here to fill in while I yawn and take a drink of my Crystal Light here. So, oh my goodness, sorry. We are looking at quite a few stories. We haven't been on the air for a while, and we know you understand. Obviously, I believe the last time we were on was January the 17th. I believe the 10th and the 17th, I was flying solo without Eric, or at least the 17th. The 24th, obviously, Christmas Eve. Both of us had family obligations. And then the 31st, obviously being New Year's Eve, once again, both of us having family obligations then as well. So we were on the 17th. We were out the 21st, out the 24th. So we missed two shows that would have normally aired over the past two Thursdays. And we totally know that our listeners, our loyal listeners, would totally understand, being those holidays, why we weren't on. So we're back, like I said, without Eric. So you're going to have to bear with me as I yawn and take a sip of my drink and not have him to fill in for me. So we'll go ahead and get started. A lot has happened since our last show on December 17th. So as our loyal listeners know, basically, and most of our listeners, we love live listeners and we welcome live listeners. In fact, that would be our preference, to have a lot of live listeners, but it doesn't work well with our time slot for a lot of our friends and family. So we actually have quite a nice following of loyal listeners that download weekly and listen to us on their MP3 players and computers. We really appreciate that. You can go to blogtalkradio.com/Incoherent Ramblings to find out. You can stream or download past episodes there, and also find out our MySpace, Twitter, and Facebook information. Feel free to friend us on any of those. And you can also go into iTunes and download our show for free there to your MP3 player of choice and listen to it. So thank you to our live listeners that hang out with us, our official UK correspondent stuck in the 70s, a loyal listener from the beginning. We appreciate him. And we have a few more scattered throughout the United States, and we thank you for that. And all of our listeners that listen after the fact, thank you. So as our loyal listeners know, we kind of trying to change the format just a little bit to try to focus on good news. Our world is just surrounded with negative news and bad news, and if you're not careful, it's awfully easy to grow negative in your feelings and your day-to-day, and sometimes you kind of get down. And we just wanted to throw out some positive, uplifting stories that we found, stories of good deeds, heroism, people making a difference in causes that they feel strongly about. And so we kind of try to shift those stories to the front of our show. And I have quite a few this week. And then after we run out of the stories that we want to share that we feel are good-hearted stories, then we just share weird, mildly amusing to very amusing, depending on your comic preference. We share those as well. So Thanks again, and here we go. This comes to us from Sandusky, Ohio. And to be fair, a lot of our stories include either heavy drinking of alcohol or people who have heavily drank alcohol and then make poor decisions, which usually turn out to be quite entertaining. So here's one. I thought I'd get us started off with the story of someone that apparently had a lot to drink. A man who appeared drunk walked into a Taco Bell restaurant earlier this week. This actually was several weeks ago, and handed the manager $72 for one taco. The manager told police near the northern Ohio town of Sandusky that the customer, who seemed to be in his early 20s, refused to take back the money and told workers Merry Christmas. Manager Aram Ohm said he thought for sure the man would return for his money, but so far he hasn't shown up. Police decided to hold the money as evidence. They said if the cash wasn't claimed in 60 days, the store manager would receive the Christmas gift. So we actually, Eric and I discussed this a couple weeks ago, and we thought that was funny. Obviously, this gentleman had a lot to drink and was noticeably drunk, but nonetheless, drunk or not, apparently in a good Christmas spirit and wanting to share some money. Where he came up with the $72, I'm not quite sure. Maybe that's all the cash he had. You know, it wasn't like a 20 or 40 or well-rounded number. Apparently, he just reached in his pocket and handed the guy $72 and just got a taco. Drunk or not, at least he had some good Christmas spirit and was wanting to share a small gift to share amongst the workers there. So good for him. Moving forward with stories of goodwill. This comes to us from Portland, Maine, actually a couple days before Christmas, December the 23rd, about a Secret Santa giving out money to Goodwill shoppers. Christmas came 3 days early at a Goodwill store in Maine's largest city. An anonymous man dressed in a Santa suit handed out envelopes containing $100 each to 100 unsuspecting shoppers Tuesday evening at the store in Portland. The surprise giveaway was similar to what a Missouri man did for years. Larry Stewart of Kansas City handed out $100 bills during the holidays, but remained anonymous until shortly before his death in 2007. In Maine, people gasped when they opened envelopes. Aria Parker tells the Portland Press Herald she didn't think Santa existed anymore. Jim Ward, who went to the store to shop for a pair of pants, plans to use the money to take his son out to dinner. I love stories like this. You know, whether it's anonymous or whether you make it everyone fully aware of who you are. I always like it when someone goes out that obviously is, you know, has the means to do so, and just anonymously spreads goodwill to people that are completely unsuspecting of it. And, you know, doing the math here, that was $10,000 in cash. That just gives me a good feeling. I enjoy giving to others and whatnot. I am not financially able to do what this gentleman did, but to the Secret Santa in Portland, Maine, I say good for you. That's another way to spread good Christmas cheer. And, you know, you can do things like that regardless of the time of year, but during the Christmas season, a lot of people are moved to give to others that are less fortunate. And this gentleman seems to be moved to do the same thing. And I was really touched by that story. And I say good for him. That's definitely a feel-good story of someone spreading goodwill and cheer. Here's a story where you have a gentleman, breaking the rules of his profession, not doing as he's told, actually being rebellious, and in the process finds a way to turn it around into a positive to help some underprivileged children. is a gentleman, Dunta Robinson. He plays for the Houston Texans. I'm not going to read the whole story. It's quite long, but basically what it boils down to, he was fined $25,000 for wearing shoes during the season opener that carried a message directed at General Manager Rick Smith, and it said, "Pay me, Rick." He was upset that the Texans and his manager were not able to reach a long-term contract, and he skipped training camp. A little bit of a spoiled brat. We see this a lot of times in professional sports. People that are being paid large amounts of money while other people are out of work and unemployed and going through a recession, and they're still not able to be grateful for the fact they're getting paid large amounts of money to do what they love, and they hold out for more money, or they refuse to go to training camp, or they pull stunts like this gentleman did, and put a message on his shoe that said, "Pay me, Rick." So he was being a little bit of a brat, I would say, and I think most people I've read online didn't agree with his approach and his attitude. But basically, what it boils down to is he was fined $25,000, and he wrote letters to Rick Smith, to the owner Bob McNair, and to the coach Gary Kubiak, and basically said, "Hey, you know what? How about allowing me to pay this $25,000 fine towards the construction of a YMCA?" And they were like, "You know what? Hey, that sounds like a great idea." Before delivering the check, Robinson did arts and crafts with a group of children in a housing development in Houston's 3rd Ward, a neighborhood that will be served by the YMCA. Dozens of boys and girls from elementary and junior high giggled and smiled as they decorated wooden Christmas ornaments with Robinson and his fiancée. "It's a great way to make a negative situation into a positive," Robinson said. "It couldn't have worked out any better than to come down here and give back to this community and see all these kids smile. These people work really hard to keep these kids on the right track, so you just want to make it a little easier on them." Goes on to say that he was a first-round pick by the Texans in 2004, so he started each game this season. He lobbied to have his money given to a cause that serves children after spending much of his childhood in facilities such as the one his money would help fund. Maybe you didn't have that father figure. Maybe you didn't have that big brother figure, and you come into these type of situations and you get to see grown-ups helping and giving to kids that aren't even theirs. You just want to help out a little bit. I definitely grew up in the same situation, and I know what it did for myself, so I can only imagine what these kids are going through right now. The Houston Texans YMCA is scheduled to be complete in 2010, and fundraisers are about halfway to the goal of $10 million, so the building can be opened debt-free. Every little bit helps us to continue to serve our community. YMCA has had a presence in this community for over 50 years, so this will help us continue the legacy and continue to serve. Robinson did apologize for his shoe message the day after it happened. He is happy to put the stunt behind him by giving the money to charity. He goes on to say, "Even negatives can turn into one of the biggest blessings. This makes me feel good. Just coming here and seeing these kids having the time of their lives is a great feeling. I couldn't have asked for that money to go to any better situation." So, to Mr. Dunta Robinson, I congratulate him. I don't agree with his initial act, his initial behavior of putting this message on his shoe, making, I don't know how much money, but a lot, I'm sure, a lot more than me or any of our listeners could ever hope to make. He turned a negative situation into a positive one and came up with the idea on his own, and is definitely giving the money to a very worthy cause to help underprivileged children. And even more importantly, not only are they underprivileged, but like it or not, and sometimes this is turbulent waters for people to go in, but I'm the kind of person that doesn't care about that. More often than not, underprivileged kids, just by the sheer fact that they're underprivileged and the environment and culture that they live in, turn out to fall easily into gangs and drugs and get into situations that aren't the best. Yeah, I know privileged kids can do the same thing. But I know from my own personal volunteering that more often than not, the underprivileged children, because they may not receive the love and attention that they need, sometimes they may act out. And here is a YMCA that's going to go into this neighborhood to be able to provide to the community a sense of community, a sense of care, and then gentlemen like this Dunto Robinson turning his negative situation into a positive one by donating a large sum of money so that they can make this dream become a reality. And I think that's really a good story. And I like the fact that, you know, I understand why he did what he did, even though he was being a brat, because we're all human, and you know he is an excellent player. But I like the fact that he was able to say, you know what I did was wrong. I'm going to apologize for it, and then I'm going to take this wrong action and create a positive action out of it. So I was very impressed by this, and he obviously is more mature than originally appearing. And so congratulations to him. Another story of goodwill. This goes from a professional football player to a much younger person. He may be a little guy, but he helps homeless folks in a big way. After seeing a homeless woman during a holiday trip to Chicago, Jonathan Slack, a 7-year-old boy from Orland Park, this is in Illinois, a suburb of Chicago, led a 10-day donation drive collecting over 4 truckloads of food and toys for a Chicago shelter. This is a 7-year-old kid. So the next time you hear someone say, I can't make a difference, actually they can make a difference, and because here's a 7-year-old kid proving as such. Jonathan was moved to tears when he saw the homeless woman standing outside of Macy's on State Street, holding a sign that said she and her son had no place to live. After he finished crying, he was moved to action. At home that night, after I read to him and getting him ready to be tucked in, he started crying, his mother said. He told his mom, that lady had no shelter, Mom. He wanted us to drive back to the city so that he could give the lady the $6 he had in his pocket. The Slacks weren't sure that was a good idea, but they encouraged Jonathan to think of other ways to help. He thought of plenty. He was going to paint a smiley face on rocks and sell them. He was going to ask President Obama to take money from rich people and give it to poor. No one agreed with that, but as a 7-year-old, that's fine. His mother suggested starting a donation. So Jonathan wrote a letter asking his community to pitch in. He dropped off photocopies all around his neighborhood. The response was tremendous. The youngster managed to collect over 4 truckloads of food and toys, which he then sent to Sue Casa Catholic Worker Homeless Shelter in Chicago. We got started late, and people only had 10 days to get their donations together, Heather said, his mother. They ended up donating about 4.5 trucks worth of stuff. We ended up filling up their whole elevator with food. Jesse Corrali, the volunteer coordinator at Sue Casa Catholic Worker House, remembers the day well. It was really exciting because we had a lot of people moving donations in and out of the house. It'd be nice if people did this all year round, and I say amen to that. I don't know where it came from, Heather Slack said of her son's selfless drive. Last year we tried to get him to realize there were people less fortunate, and it wasn't working. And this year I'd like to think that it was divine intervention. So like I said, here's a young man, 7 years old, sees a homeless lady and her son, no shelter, no food, and is moved to do something about it and through a 7-year-old child's efforts, 4.5 truckloads of food and toys were donated to a homeless shelter in Chicago, proving that anybody can do good deeds. Anybody can spread cheer and goodwill. When someone that's only 7, that has limited resources as compared to me and other adults, can make this much of a difference, if we all work together, we can all make a difference. And I really like this young man's drive and determination. Moving on to our next story. Someone who is quite fortunate, I might say. I'm sure you've heard about this, the $128.6 million lottery jackpot. But it's more than just this person that won the lottery. There's more to the story. A Central Kentucky auto worker is lucky he held on to the $128 million Powerball ticket he bought Christmas Eve during some last-minute shopping. After all, it was printed by mistake. Lottery officials said Rob Anderson and his wife Tuesday were winners of the largest jackpot in the state's history. Wednesday, the couple was introduced at the state lottery headquarters in Louisville, and the Andersons said they didn't initially believe they had won after buying lottery tickets together for 12 years. We didn't hit it, that's not us, he told his wife. Something's not right. What happened was the clerk that sold them the tickets made a mistake. Rob Anderson said the winning ticket was a misprint that he decided to keep while buying stocking stuffers in Georgetown, Kentucky. He wanted to buy $1 lottery tickets for 3 people, but the clerk goofed. The clerk ran the $3 quick pick, but he put it all in one ticket. And Rob was like, man, I needed 3 separate tickets. The clerk says, do you want to keep the ticket, which had 3 random numbers? He's like, yeah, I got a couple extra dollars. He thought he'd buy 3 more tickets to give as gifts. Turns out one of the 3 numbers on the mistake ticket was the sole winner of the $128 million Powerball lottery. So, I mean, he could have, he could have just torn it up and, whatever. I mean, he could have not kept the ticket and just bought the 3 separate tickets, anyhow he decided to keep it. And even with this money, it says, we're really grounded people. My wife taught me well, so to speak, to hang on to that dollar and see how far it gets you. We still clip coupons and still look for the clearance rack. He's going to go back to school, and they dream of visiting Hawaii. They want to get a new car. If they take the lump sum payment, it'll be about $63 million. Prior to this jackpot, the largest ever won in Kentucky was $89.3 million in 1996. So there was a guy that won on a ticket he didn't even intend to buy. But because of the mistake of the clerk at the gas station, he and his wife are $128.6 million wealthier than before. And from what I'm reading, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't help out friends and family with that. I know most of us would. Let's see here. I've got one more story that I thought this actually was listener submitted. As we always say, we welcome input from our listeners, and this was sent to a loyal listener that's actually here in the North Carolina area. And I found this story. It seems to be a neat little story here from Spokane, Washington. Love for each other and the environment, creative thriftiness have prompted a Spokane couple to collect aluminum cans to help pay for their wedding. Andrea Parrish and Peter Geyer have already more than 18,000 cans in their living room. I'm not sure. They must have a large living room where it must be quite packed. Nearly 5% of their goal, collecting 400,000 of the containers. The local newspaper says that would be about 5 tons of aluminum worth about $3,800 when recycled. Parrish and Geyer hope to meet their goal by July 31st wedding. They set up a website to explain their plan at weddingcans.com. So if you're interested in learning more about what they're doing here, go to weddingcans.com and see what they have to say. So I thought that was an interesting story there, where they're cleaning up. If we were all responsible in the first place, there wouldn't be any cans to clean up. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And these people are making a difference by cleaning up their local streets where they live, and in the process are going to have a nice amount of money to pay for their wedding. So hopefully they will meet their goal and do well. So good for them. So that basically ends. And for our listeners that are with us, usually this is the Incoherent Ramblings of C&E. It's Chris and Eric. This is Chris that you hear incoherently rambling. Eric is not with us tonight. So unfortunately, he's not here because he provides some comic relief. You don't have to listen to me ramble on the whole time. And when I take a sip of water or have to yawn, he can fill in for me. So I apologize. That kind of wraps up our good news and good feeling stories, and I'm quite pleased with the stories that we had today. Quite a few stories of spreading goodwill and cheer towards mankind, and that is always a good feeling to me. Now we get on to the weird, strange news, either interesting, if not amusing, or both. Eric and I usually try to find things, usually involving alcohol and people that have imbibed alcohol and decide to drive. And more often than not, they're driving mobility scooters, such as our unofficial show sponsor, Hover-Round. Go ahead and give a quick shout out to our unofficial sponsor.
Hey, Bernice and Joy, tell everyone which power wheelchair got you to the Grand Canyon.
Hover-Round. No one's free to see the world.
If you've ever seen that commercial, and you have a strange sense of humor like Eric and I do, you will understand why we find that to be funny. Actually, we have a caller that has actually called in and has their hand raised, asking to come on the air, so I'm going to take a call. This is Christopher.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. I was just calling in. I heard your show, and this is Leroy from Kentucky.
Hey, Leroy, how are you doing?
I'm great. I just won the lotto.
You did?
I did. You were just talking about me.
Oh,
all my friends call me Leroy. That's why I said that.
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations, Leroy.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to say hello.
Well, thank you for calling in, and if you want to share some of those lottery winnings, feel free. Shoot me an email on it.
Well, if you want to send me $1,000, I'll take that $1,000 and then I'll give you $2,000 in return.
Well, that sounds like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well,
all right, have a good night.
Okay, thank you. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. I have no idea who that was. I don't think Leroy was won the lottery, but apparently someone was calling in either from Kentucky or pretending to be. Either way, we appreciate them listening and calling in. So now we're moving on here to our goofy stories. And I'm not going to read this whole story because it's much too long, but I found it to be quite humorous. People here at the show know that we love monkeys. Our show's official mascot is Miss Bella, my beautiful pit bull that's actually laying here right beside me and looking at me with a hilariously goofy face. She is our show's mascot, and people that listen on a regular basis know that one of her nicknames is Monkey. And when I said monkey, she's looking at me like, what? I like monkeys. They make me laugh. I find them to be amusing. So basically, here's a story about a monkey. Basically, these scientists and people studying animals here in Japan have noticed that this Japanese monkey recognized the value of strong dental hygiene, and they floss their teeth. Apparently, they pull out their hair and use their hair to floss their teeth. This is a female Japanese. I don't even know how to pronounce this monkey's name, so I'm not going to try. She came up with this idea of using her hair to floss her teeth, and they bite into hair and pull it through the mouth to remove external parasites. And so not that funny of a story, but if you saw the picture, you would see it's quite funny. This monkey sitting there chewing on her arm hair, flossing her teeth. I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Moving on to a story that I did find a little bit funnier. This guy in Florida is charged with abusing the emergency system and assaulting a police officer. Authorities say a Florida man who called police dispatchers claiming that he had been beaten and shot was hoping the tale would get him a ride to a bar. Instead, 37-year-old Gregory J. Orris is facing charges of misusing the emergency call system and battery of a law enforcement officer. The St. Petersburg Times said an arrest report says Orris called police dispatchers 3 times before his arrest early Tuesday in Oldsmar, near northwest of Tampa. He told the dispatchers he had a broken nose and bleeding ears and claimed people were shooting at him. Authorities said he was actually looking for a ride to another bar. The report says that Orris kicked a Pinellas County Sheriff's deputy in the knees, and a taser was used to subdue him before he was arrested. If you're listening and you don't mind being somewhat judgmental and having a good laugh, Google this story, Gregory J. Orris, O-R-A-S, and check out the picture on MSNBC. I find it quite amusing, this gentleman and his, I don't know if it's tattoos or if he's used a marker to draw on his face. I think his picture explains the story. Let's leave it at that. So go out and check that out. Kind of funny. We have another call I'm going to take right now. Caller, you're on the air. Hello? Well, apparently the caller has their hand raised and doesn't realize that they have their hand raised, so we'll just go back to the show here. Let's see. This is a story I thought was kind of odd. This lady, I'll just read the story short. This comes to us from Omaha, Nebraska. The Nebraska Court of Appeals says a woman who left her dog with 2 friends for almost a year doesn't owe them any money for boarding the Chihuahua, much less the $2,700 they asked for. Heather Linville asked Travis Dare and Natasha Combs in August of 2007 to care for her 4-pound Lola because pets weren't allowed at her apartment. When Linville asked that the dog be returned, Dare and Combs refused, saying she had abandoned Lola. Linville called the police, and an officer retrieved the dog. Dare and Combs sued compensation for boarding the dog, and 2 lower courts sided with them. However, appeals court ruled this week that Linville owes Dare and Combs only $158 for a veterinary bill and nothing for boarding because they did not ask to be paid when they took the dog. So apparently, because they weren't asking for compensation and agreed to keep the dog for free, of course, decided that they are not due money for keeping the dog. However, and I agree with this, they are going to have to pay for, the lady will have to pay for the vet bills, which makes sense. If it's her dog, she should be responsible for that. This next story, I wish Eric was here for this one, because this one is, in my opinion, and I think most people that have a darker sense of humor, his opinion, will think it's quite funny, even though it is kind of sad because the guy killed a dog. It does turn out to be quite funny. Excuse me, this comes to us from San Clemente, California. A man savagely killed a dog, ran naked through a tennis club, and poured hot coffee on his head before he was finally arrested, according to Orange County Sheriff deputies. The killing the dog part, maybe not so funny, but the rest of that story is quite amusing. Bayron Reyes Lopez, 26, of San Clemente, was hospitalized after being captured at the tennis club where he worked as a maintenance man. Deputies first got a call about the man at 4:30 a.m. when there were reports of a loud radio at his apartment. Deputies believe he jumped from a third-story window to get away and was unhurt. Just after 6 a.m., Judy Donnelly called to say a strange man had approached her, and when her 5-year-old mini schnauzer named Kokanee intervened, the man killed the dog, hitting, choking, and repeatedly beating her on the asphalt in front of me. She saved my life. I don't know how to thank her. She has placed flowers on the street where her dog died. And that's where the sadness ends and the bizarre goofiness and hilarity begins. Minutes later, other callers reported a naked man running through the Rancho San Clemente Tennis Club and pouring hot coffee on his head. That's where the deputies caught up with him. He was initially hospitalized, but will be at least booked for cruelty to animals. He was being tested to determine if he was under the influence of any drugs or narcotics, and so other charges are also possible. Here's a hint. I think it's pretty safe that he was either hopped up on some kind of dope, drunk out of his mind, or he's mentally disturbed. Well, I think one of those three have to be the case. I can't see how anything else could be possible, in my personal opinion. If you would kill and beat a dog to death, and then commence to run around in public nude while pouring scalding hot coffee on your head, I think most people would agree that these are not actions of what would be considered to be a sane person. And to be honest with you, I think it's kind of funny. And if you see the picture of him, he looks to me almost like a slightly Hispanic, bad dental work, deranged Ray Romano. I don't know. That's just kind of what I'm coming up with here. As I've reported before, our unofficial sponsors of the show are Hover-Round, our mobility experts. Thank you. And we like looking for stories that include motorized scooters, and preferably teamed up with intoxication. And here is a follow-up on a story that we've had many months ago. Kyle Weigel was driving a motorized bar stool when he crashed and was later charged with driving while under the influence. This comes to us from Newark, Ohio. Officials in Ohio will have to try again to sell a motorized bar stool from an unusual drunken driving case. The Child Support Agency in Central Ohio's Licking County says that the winning bidder in an eBay auction did not come through with payment for the bar stool crashed by Weigel in March. Weigel was arrested and charged with driving under the influence. The county wants to sell the contraption to pay child support owed by Weigel. A high bid of $11.25 was reached in an auction that ended December 13th. Because the online auction didn't work, Child Support Agency Director Elizabeth Winiger, says a live auction will be held next month in Newark. Weigel pleaded guilty in the drunken driving case and served 3 days in a driver education program. People know that I am judgmental, so there you have it. I will at least admit it. This guy obviously is maybe not the best of parents and best of people if he's, behind on his child support. And if you can see the picture of this motorized bar stool, it looks like a very rudimentary go-kart frame with some lawnmower tires, a post with a steering wheel on top of it, and then a bar stool adhered to the frame. And in the original story, he was driving this bar stool drunk at a bar and bashes into several cars right in front of the police officer. So it was kind of obvious that he was, this is not one of those alleged incidents. It was witnessed. So here's to Kyle Weigel. Not very good parent, at least not taking financial responsibility for his child. And obviously not that smart for driving around intoxicated on a makeshift mobility scooter when he could have just bought himself a hover-round. Speaking of intoxication, here is a record. This is going to really catch you off guard here. I mean, this is huge. Rapid City, South Dakota. South Dakota authorities say a woman found passed out in a stolen delivery van earlier this month registered a blood alcohol content of 0.708, nearly 9 times the legal limit and possibly a record for the state. Meade County State's Attorney Jesse Sondriel said Wednesday that the 45-year-old Marguerite Engel was found slumped over the van's steering wheel on December 1st. He says the highest blood alcohol content state chemist he spoke with could recall was a 0.56. The state's legal limit is 0.08. So we'll do a little math real quick. 0.708 divided by 0.08 comes up to 8.85. So this lady was 8.85 times the legal limit. Authorities say Engel missed an initial court hearing December 15th, but that they found her Monday in another stolen vehicle and that she had been drinking. So, I mean, seriously, she got caught in a stolen vehicle at 0.70 blood alcohol content, off the charts. When they couldn't find her showing up for a court date, where do they look? Go look for stolen vehicles. And sure enough, that she's in there and she'd been drinking. So, from one stupid person right on to the next. This comes to us from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. A man was found passed out New Year's Day at a gas station while cooking methamphetamine in his vehicle at the fuel pumps. Okay, now, before I read the rest of the story, we all know that meth labs are highly explosive. We've seen on the news, we've read stories where meth labs have just blown sky high. They are not stable environments. We know that. And we know they're highly flammable, highly explosive. Another thing that we know is highly flammable and highly explosive is automobile gasoline. Highly explosive. So this jack-in-the-box was cooking him up some meth in the back of his vehicle sitting next to gas pumps in a gas station. This is a recipe for disaster. A Shell station employee called Murfreesboro police to report the passed out man. The worker said the vehicle had been parked for about an hour. Officers found the man, Nathan Beasley, in the driver's seat and saw he was cooking meth in the back of his vehicle. Anytime you have this type of chemical in location of a gas pump, an explosion can be tremendous. Rutherford County EMS transported Beasley to Middle Tennessee Medical Center, where he was reported to be responsive. Also, officers are investigating and charges are pending. The meth lab was secured and dismantled by police and hazmat crews. I would personally recommend that there should charges be in there and endangering other people, because other people going to get gas, not choosing to be at a meth lab, not going to buy meth, not going to sell chemicals to make meth, but going to fill up their car with gasoline, were put in a very dangerous situation had this meth lab exploded. So, I mean, this guy, I think he should do some serious jail time, because not only for making the meth, which people can make arguments about, legalizing marijuana. People can say if heroin were legalized and passed out, it would stop spreading diseases because of shared needles, and the people would get the help they needed. And so you can make all these arguments you want to, but I don't know of anybody that is going to argue that meth is a good thing. It's an absolute horrible drug with horrible side effects, horribly unstable, because there's many different ways to cook it. So you never know how pure it is. You never know what the base chemicals were. You never know how strong and potent it is. You could have been using X amount of meth for a year, take the same amount from a different dealer, and be dead. I've seen specials on TV of these people that have been on it for 12, 15 years, and it's pitiful. Their teeth are rotted out. Their skin and bones. They have horrible hygiene. Meth is just stupid. It's absolute insane. And then to be cooking meth at a gas station is putting other people in risk of danger, and possibly even, and rightfully so to imagine, possibly even death. Not a good idea. And this guy needs more than a slap on the wrist and then a pat on the butt and send him back out into society, in my opinion. Here's an odd story. We all know that firefighters, they put their lives on the line, not just police officers and military personnel, but the firefighters have the potential of being put in some dangerous situations. Here's a situation they were probably most likely not expecting to be in. This comes to us from St. George, Utah. Crews responding to a trailer fire in southern Utah had another factor to contend with: snakes. Kristen Checketts, the animal control officer in St. George, says there were about 19 pet pythons in the trailer when it caught fire. Once the fire was put down, Checketts and firefighters began pulling out snake after snake, most in cages, and some up to 18 feet long. Oh, that just gives me the heebie-jeebies. Checkett says 11 survived. The snake's owner tried to revive another, but by massaging it and by blowing into its mouth through a plastic pipe. Cuckoo. Fire Captain Jason Whipple says the accidental fire started with a heat lamp in one of the snake cages. So here's some firefighters going to put out a fire, aren't expecting 18-foot pythons to be dealt with. Kind of odd, if you ask me. Next, we have a story I thought was kind of interesting. Anytime we have a new year, there's always there's always going to be one child that was born, the first child born in the new year. So anytime this comes around, a lot of times they receive grants. They receive, like trust funds. They receive college funds. The parents get free baby food for a year. All kinds of neat things happen, and it's kind of a neat thing saying, I was the first child born of 2010. Here's a unique story. It comes to us from Tampa, Florida. Identical twin boys in Florida will get to celebrate their birthdays individually after they were born in separate decades. So not only separate days, not only separate months, separate years, but separate decades. Margarita Velasco delivered the twins by cesarean section at Tampa General Hospital. Marcelo was delivered just before midnight. His twin, Stefano, was delivered just as the new year began. Their father, Juan, says it will be good for each boy to have his own birthday party. The twins are in intensive care because they were born about 10 weeks early. Doctors say they will get to go home in about 8 weeks. I have a picture here, a cute little kid, a cute little baby, and hopefully the mother is doing well, and these two twins that were born 8 weeks early, 10 weeks early, hopefully they will recover and be healthy young boys. But I thought that was kind of cool because, a lot of times twins have to share the same birthday. Well, one was born December 31st, one January the 1st, but different decades they were born in. I would have to assume, I'm sure that's happened before, but I would have to assume it is a rare occurrence that these young men can actually say about their birth. Here was a weird story. It's kind of disturbing, but it's weird. Relatives say they smelled a foul odor coming from mom's personal items. This comes to us from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Members of a family are suing a funeral home claiming their mother's brain was sent home in a bag of personal effects given to them after her death. The lawsuit filed on behalf of 4 family members in State District Court in Albuquerque says the discovery was made the day after interment, when relatives smelled a foul odor coming from the bag they received from De Vargas Funeral Home and Crematory of the Espanola Valley. The Albuquerque Journal reported on the lawsuit in a copyright story published Wednesday. Funeral home owner Johnny De Vargas says the fault does not lie with his business and that another entity in Utah, where the woman died in a September car crash, was responsible. I'm not really sure. I know who's responsible, and I'm not really sure it matters. I don't even know why this is a matter to sue over. Our country's kind of gone crazy suing. That may sound a little insensitive to this family, and I don't mean it to be. Nonetheless, regardless of whose fault it is, that has to be rather disturbing to get home from the funeral the next day and go belongings and smell a foul odor, only to find out that her brain was in there. That's disturbing. And finally, we're about to wrap things up here. If you're going to Switzerland or if you live in Switzerland, you might want to watch your speed. A Swiss court has slapped a wealthy speeder with a fine of $290,000. Judges based the fine on the speeder's estimated wealth of more than $20 million. He's a repeat offender and drove up to 35 miles an hour faster than the 50-mile-an-hour limit. This trumps the previous record of $107,000. So if you're wealthy and going to Switzerland or living in Switzerland, you might want to watch your speed limit because it sounds like to me they're cracking down on speeders and hitting them with some stiff penalties. Happy New Year. Thank you for listening. We had several listeners joining in with us today live. Appreciate that. Join us back next week. Hopefully Eric will be back with us. If he's not, he will be back soon. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks. This has been Blog Talk Radio's The Incoherent Ramblings of C&E. Christopher and Eric are your hosts, and we would like to thank you for listening to our show today. Don't forget to tune in for next week's show, live from Greensboro, North Carolina, as we are every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time.